Hello folks. Now what I did in the last video was add some progression to the game. So it was actually possible to kill off the current wave of enemies and then move on to the next level, which would be more difficult. Now there's a lot of things I've talked about, like the castle's health, the current level, the high score and things like that, but I'm not actually displaying any of them on the screen and it's looking kind of bare without all of that. So that's what I want to add in this video. I'm going to come down to where I've got my functions. And if you remember from the previous video, I created a function called draw text, and this allowed me to put text onto the screen. So now I'm going to use this function to be able to, well, basically display all of that information. Rather than printing it down here, I can actually just have it shown on the screen all the time. So I'll start off with a function here. I'll call it a function for displaying status. And this is just going to contain all of the different information within the game. So we say def for define show underscore info. And this doesn't take any arguments. It's basically just a collection of draw text functions that I'm going to be calling within it. Now the difference here is I don't want to use white text for this. I want to use gray text. So I'll come up to where I've defined my colors above and I'll just add a gray one to it. So gray I will say is 100. I know you're going to get different shades of it, so this is just what I've picked. You can play around with these numbers, but I've gone with 100 for red, green and blue. And now I can start filling in this show info section. So the first thing I want to put on is how much money the player has earned. So let's call draw underscore text and put in here. First of all, I say money, leave a space, and then I want to add on the actual integer value. Now the money, if you remember, I have this castle class just below. This has a money variable. It also has a score variable, and these increase every time I kill one of the enemies. So if I just simply call this variable in here, I'll be able to see how much money I've earned throughout playing the game. So let's say castle.money. Then the next thing is going to be the font I want to use. So I created two different fonts up above in the previous video, font and font 60. So font 60 is the bigger one that I use for like big messages on the screen, like level complete or game over. Font is what I'm going to use for pretty much all the rest of the information. So I'm going to stick with font. Then I need the color, which I just defined as gray, and then the X and Y coordinates. So this is the first one I want on the screen. So I'm just going to put this in the top left. And that's it. So that's going to show me the amount of money that I've earned while killing all these enemies. But on its own, it's not going to do anything. I need to actually call that within the game loop. So we scroll all the way down, well, not that far down. So I've got my groups. All of this stuff is being updated and drawn onto the screen. So let's just go directly below that. And just as a last thing that I'm going to do is show details. And we'll add show underscore info. So now I'm going to call that function and it's going to display everything that I've put inside it, which at the moment is just money. So let's run this. And there we go. So in the top left, I've got this little counter for money. And in fact, this is going to work. If I kill one of these guys, there we go. So the money variable is increasing and so is that number going up with it. So that's good. Now I just need to do the same thing over and over. I'll copy this down. The next one I want is the score. So let's replace that with score. And this again is stored within the castle class. So I'll say castle.score. This one moves along a little bit. So I'll say the X coordinate is going to be 180. Now the score is actually the same as the money to start with. So if I start killing these guys, it's going to be identical. But what will happen is once I earn a certain amount of money, I'll be able to upgrade things. So I'll be able to add towers and repair. So the money is going to go down, but the score never goes down. So this is just like an overall tracker of how many of these guys I've killed and how far I've gotten within the game. So that way I can keep a high score. So next one is exactly what I just mentioned, high score. So we'll put that here. And I realized I haven't actually defined this yet, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. String high score. I'll need to go up and define this variable first. High score. So this one is going to be the same X coordinate as the score, but it's going to be just below it, 30. Now before I run this, let's just go and define it in my game variables here and just let's put it near the top. So level 1 high score is equal to 0 to begin with. Okay, so that way the game's not going to crash when I run it. I'll get my score and high score. At the moment, because I haven't coded anything in for the high score, it's not actually changing. So I'll come back to that later. So we've got high score. Next one is the level. What level am I on within the game? change that to level. We'll change that to string level. Now that's already defined, so I don't need to do anything there. X coordinate, I kind of just want this in the middle of the screen, so let's just change that to screen width and divide by 2. But notice I used 2 division signs. It's just so I don't get a float value. I'll come back with an integer value. And do the same thing again. Now instead of level, the next one I want is health. So I want to know how much health the castle's got. So we say health, and then it's going to be string of the castle health, castle.health. But I want to know what that health is out of the maximum health. So as the castle takes damage, I want to know how much that is relative to what it had. So actually, I'm going to add another bit here. So we'll add a little /, I'll put spaces around it, and then another plus string castle.max health. So you don't need to do this, you could just output the health if you like, but I find it useful to see how much health the castle's still got remaining, because then you know whether you should use the heal or the repair, sorry, or not. Difference with this one is all the rest were along the top. This one I want to be underneath the castle. So I'll say screen width minus 230. And for this one, it's going to be from the bottom of the screen. So screen height minus 50. So let's see if that looks okay. Run that. And there we go. So I've got my castle's health down here, 1000 out of 1000. Got the level shown at the top, the score. And actually, let's see if this updates. So when these guys get the castle, they should start attacking it, and the health will start dropping. And there you go. So the health is dropping off pretty quickly now, actually. As it gets to 500, the castle changes damage, 100 changes again, and then we hit 0, and the castle doesn't take any more damage, but at this point, of course, I will have a game over trigger. So the screen is looking a little bit better now. I've actually got some information coming up there. I don't have to keep printing things down here to be able to see what's going on. And in fact, if I kill these guys now, I should be able to move on to the next level. So let's just quickly kill them all off. Level complete. And there we go. I've moved on to a level 2. Score and money is still there, and the level gets a little bit harder. Now, I've left a little bit of room up here, and that's deliberate. There's a few buttons that I want to be able to add into this game. So one of them is repair. So as the castle takes damage, I want to be able to restore its health. Another one is towers, so I can build more towers to help me shoot these guys. And then the last one is an armor upgrade, so that I can actually increase the max health of the castle. So I'm going to add 2 of those buttons in just now. Now, I've previously coded buttons separately. So I have this module here, I've got this standalone code. It's not very long, but I'm not going to go through it all now, simply because I've already got a separate video that goes into this in complete detail and explains exactly how it works. So if you want to understand all of this, you can check that out, I'll link it. But for now, I'm just going to show how to use it, and I'm just going to import this into my game. The important thing though to note is that this button class, so that code, just the same as the enemy code, needs to be in the same location within your folders as your main game code. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to import it. So I go to the top of my main game code, and where I've got from enemy, import enemy, I'm going to say import button. I could do the same thing. I could just say from button, import button, because I just need the class. I'm just going to do a little bit different to show the 2 different ways. So with the buttons imported, or rather with the button module imported, I can now create them. So first of all, I need images for these buttons. We'll come down to this section here where I'm loading all of my images, and underneath all the enemies, actually I'll get rid of that space to keep it all together. Underneath here, I'll add another section which is going to be button images. So for now, I just want 2 different images. First one is repair image, and that's going to be repair underscore img is pygame.image.load, and it's going to be in the folder img, and the name of it, so it's right here, it's in this folder img, and there's no, that's not it. There's repair.png and there's armor.png. So make sure that you've got them set up in the same way, and if you've got them differently, make sure that you name this section correctly. So img/repair.png, and we say .convert alpha. That's one of them. Now let's get the armor image. In fact, let's just copy this down because I'm just changing one word. And this becomes armor underscore img, and this also becomes /armor png, because there it is right there. So that's them loaded. Now I can create buttons using these images. And I'll do that just as I'm doing with all the other instances, right at the bottom of all the classes, just above the main game loop. So this is the structure that I like to use. So just here, I've got my other instances. I've got my class, my castle and my crosshair. And just below that, I will create my buttons. So I'll say create buttons. I'm only creating 2 for now. So repair underscore button is button, which is the name of the module I just imported. And then dot button with a capital B, which is the name of the class. So this is the button module, this is the button class, it's got a capital B. And then in here, I just put in the arguments that it takes. So that's X and Y coordinates, the image, and then the scale. X and Y coordinates for these buttons, they're coming in from the right-hand side. So I take my screen width and I just subtract numbers from it. So for this one, it's minus 220. The Y coordinate is 10 because the button is near the top. And then the picture that I want to use for this one is the repair image that I just loaded. Lastly, the scale, we'll scale it down a bit to half the current size. That's one of them. And do the next one, which is going to be my armor button. Armor underscore button. Everything is exactly the same, except this one is a little bit further to the right, so 75. And we just change this image to armor image. So let's run this code. Nothing's going to actually come up on the screen, but I just wanted to make sure it doesn't crash. So I know that it's loading the images correctly, creating the instances correctly, so it's finding all the code and all the information that it needs. Now I simply need to draw these buttons. So the buttons themselves, they've got a draw method. They just need one argument, which is the surface. So let's come back into my main game loop, and I think I'll just put this right underneath show info. Yeah, so show info is where I'm putting all the text, so it just makes sense to just put it right underneath there. Say draw buttons. And basically all I do is call the button name. So repair, like that, repair, nope, repair, what have I done wrong? Repair underscore button, yeah. Dot draw onto the screen. Then do the exact same thing for armor button. Dot draw onto the screen. So I'll run this now, and it failed. What have I done? Oops. Try that again. There we go. So there they are. That one's tiny. I shouldn't have scaled it so far down, so I'll fix that in a second. But there you go. I've got the buttons there. Oh, one slight issue for you to fix is that I can still shoot up here. I don't want to be able to do that. But the buttons are there. I'll be able to add functionality for when I click on them. But first of all, let's fix 2 things. One is the scale of that image, and 2, I don't want to be able to shoot when I click up there. So scale, first of all, let's go up to where I'm creating the button here. And I think actually this one I have to go the other way around. I probably have to make it bigger. So let's go 1.5. Yeah, that's a bit better. So that's about the same size roughly. And now the other thing I need to fix is when I shoot. So that's handled within the shoot method of the castle class. So that's done here, right? So I should be able to add a little condition that basically, as long as I am outside of that range, only then am I allowed to shoot. So here when I'm looking for that mouse click, I'm saying if the mouse button is pressed and the self-fire trigger is false, well, also I can say if the Y coordinate of the mouse is above a certain value, so it's like not right at the top of the screen. The Y coordinate is already here. Remember, I'm taking it as pause from the mouse position, and 1 gives me the mouse coordinate, the Y coordinate, sorry. So I say pause 1. If that's greater than, say, 70 pixels, then we're okay to shoot. Otherwise, don't shoot. So here is all fine. Get to about here, and it stops. So I can click these buttons without having to worry about shooting onto them. Okay, so that's both of those little issues fixed. Now I can actually add in functionality for these buttons. The way they work within the draw method, it actually returns. So that means that I can add, rather than just saying draw, I can say if repair button.draw. This is going to return a true or false value. So let's just test this out. Print repair. So now when I click it, I should get a little printout down here. Click that, and there we go, saying repair. So every time I click this button, it tells me repair. So that means that I can actually code in some functionality that's going to be called instead of just putting the button onto the screen. Now repairing should be fairly straightforward because I can add that functionality into the castle. So I will just go up into my castle class up here and just add a new method for it. So right at the bottom below where I've got my draw method, I'll add a new one. I'll say def repair. This doesn't take any arguments, so we'll just put self in there. And then what do I want to be able to do? Well, first of all, when I repair, the health of the castle is going to increase. But I don't want to be able to do it all the time. I want to be able to actually afford to do it. So I'm going to set a price on this of 1,000. So first I need to check whether I've got enough money. If castle.money is greater than or equal to 1,000, I don't know, 1,000 monies, well, in that case, increase the castle health by 500. So we'll repair the castle and then we'll subtract that money. So castle.money is, you know what, I'm doing this actually a little bit silly because I should be using self, not castle. I'm doing this the wrong way around. So the code is correct, but I need to make sure that this is not castle dot, but it should actually be self dot. I shouldn't be accessing an instance from this instance itself. So it should always be self within here. So if I come back to this, if the amount of money I've got is greater than 1,000, that means I can afford it. So I'll add 500 health and I'll subtract 1,000 monies. But of course, I don't want to go above my max health. Like if I have got 900 health and the max health is 1,000, I don't want to go to 900 plus 500 to 1,400. I can't exceed my max health. So let's add a little check here. If castle health is greater than castle max health, then castle health is limited. So castle health just becomes castle.max health. And of course, as I upgrade the castle, the max health will increase. So that means that I'll be able to increase and repair it further. So now this is done, I should be able to call this repair method when that button is clicked. So let's come down here, and instead of this print, I will just say castle, which is the instance, dot repair. Now I won't be able to do it straight away because I'm not going to have any money. So let's go back up and cheat a little bit. So when I create the castle self.money, let's start off with 5,000 monies. Run this, and there we go. I've got my 5,000. I won't be able to repair just yet, but maybe I will. But if I'll let these guys come along and do damage to the castle. There we go. So now I better kill them off so they don't keep doing it. So I'll repair once, and it's gone back. There is a bit of a problem. It's working, but there's a bit of an issue, which is that I can keep repairing even though my health is full. So now I've run out of money, I can't repair anymore, but look, I've still got full health and 1,000 money. Now it's gone down to 0. So let's fix that little bug there. And it basically needs to be an additional check here. So if self.money is greater than 1,000, well, yes, that's correct, but also self.health is less than self.max health. So I don't really want to be accidentally repairing the castle when it's already at full health. So let's run this again. I've got 5,000. I can click this and nothing happens. But let's test this out. I'm just going to tweak these numbers again so I don't have to wait on those guys. So self health is 1,000. Max health, let's just set that to 1250 for now. I'll comment that out. And can I repair? Yeah, so I repair, but it only goes up to 1250. Then these guys are going to come along, do more damage, and I'll be able to click this again and repair again. So they continue to do damage, I repair again, draws down my money, kill a few more guys, getting close to death, repair again, kill more guys. Oh, that's not enough. I can't repair because I can't afford it. Kill one more guy, and there we go, back up to health. Okay, so that's all working pretty well. Let's just reset all these back to normal. I'll keep the money at 5,000 for now, just so I can keep fixing the other stuff. And now there's only one more button that I want to address just now, which is the armor button. So I want to be able to increase the max health of the castle. So I just create another function or another method just like this one here. Put it in down below. And this one I'm going to call armor. I'll just say armor. It doesn't need to take any arguments, but the logic is going to be the same. So if the money is greater than, let's say 500, doesn't need to be as steep. So if it's got more than 500, we get rid of that check because that doesn't really apply anymore. Then self, now this time it's not health that's increasing, it's max health. The max health of the castle increases by 250, and the money is decreased by 500. There aren't really any additional checks here, so I don't need to do that section. But what I do need to do is make sure that I'm calling this armor method when I click that button. So I've got the first button covered. If repair button is clicked, then I repair. So I do the same thing for the armor one. If that's clicked, then it's castle.armor. Let's run this again. So now I do have 5,000, so I should be able to spend it straight away on increasing armor. There we go. I spent 500 and my castle health is going up. And that means I can actually repair up to it as well. So now I've got more health to work with. So the very last thing that I want to do before I wrap this one up is add a price for these. At the moment, there's no way of knowing how much these things actually cost until you click on them. So I've already got this section up here, this show info bit. I can just add a couple more draw text lines to it just to make sure that I'm adding in the price for them. So let's come down here and put draw text, and the price is 1,000 for, 1,000 for the repair. So we'll put this one, I don't need anything else on top of it, so it's just 1,000. Get rid of this space here. Font is correct, gray is correct, and this will be at kind of coming over on the left hand side now. So screen width minus 220 and 70 pixels down, because it needs to be underneath the buttons. So that's the repair. I've added a space here by accident. And now I need to do the exact same thing, but for armor. And armor was a bit cheaper. I said 500. So 500, exactly the same here, but it's over minus 75 because it's a little bit closer to the right hand side of the screen. So let's run this again just to make sure it works. So there we go. I've got 1,000 underneath here, and actually maybe move that over a tiny bit. Minus 70. Okay, yeah, that looks a bit better. It's more central. So now this costs 500. I've got 5,000 money. 4.5. 4, and it's cost 1,000. 3. So everything is working pretty well. So that's gonna about do it for this video. If you found this useful, then please leave a like and feel free to subscribe. And thanks for watching.